Who would have thought that in the year 2023, we would be watching a fucking MTV decoded Francesca Ramsey video? My God.
Modern genetics has shown that the lines around race are so arbitrary that they're actually meaningless. And since I'm not a scientist, I'll take a quote. Francis Collins, the director of—
What does that have to do with colorblindness?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Why are we talking about race realism?
Look, I'm waiting patiently here.
Okay.
Why colorblindness will not end racism? She's basically making an argument that
for colorblindness.
For colorblindness. Yeah, exactly. I'm very confused. What's happening here?
Of the National Human Genome Research Institute said it himself. Those who wish to draw precise racial boundaries around certain groups will not be able to use science as a legitimate justification. Oops, I dropped the mic. So if race doesn't exist biologically, why do we keep talking about it? Sound the alarm! We keep talking about race because we created it. Yay, us! That's right, race is a social construct. A social construct is a category, perception, or idea created and developed by society and then applied to individuals or groups.
Okay.
What does that not apply to under this broad of a definition?
A category, perception, or idea created and developed by society and then applied to individual or groups.
Yeah.
I mean, that really applies to just everything, right?
Yeah. If you have a word that describes everything, that means the word is useless.
Right. So like chimpanzees are a social construct, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a category.
Yep. The category created by society.
Right. And applied to a group.
A group of animals, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the category is rooted in biological factors, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I hate this social construct, stupid definition.
Typically, yeah.
It's so worthless.
Toothpaste. Social construct. Got you.
The sun is a social construct under this definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stars. Stars are a social construct.
Yep. The reason that this is done, and it's funny because this is a justification to soften up any category to allow it to be tampered with in any way the individual, generally the leftist, wants to tamper with the category.
Mm-hmm.
It's to say, oh, look, all these categories are just made up by people, so therefore we can do whatever the fuck we want with them, right? We can screw around with them anyway.
Woman.
There you go. Social construct.
Yeah. Trans women are women, and women are birthing people.
Yep.
But social constructs are still very real and have huge impacts on our lives. Because you know what else is a social construct? Money. And if you don't think money has an enormous impact on your life, well then congratulations. You either have a trust fund or you're an adorable baby. Or maybe you're a dog. Here's what I know. Talking about racism just creates more racism. No. First off, race—
You know another reason people react to these videos so strongly?
Mm-hmm. Because they're comedy gold.
They're super cringy. These videos are fucking hyper cringe. This is before people even use the word cringe. If people use the word cringe, they'd call her Francesca Crims Ramsey, okay? Like, Jesus. I forgot how incredibly cringe these videos were. It's like, God, they're painful to watch.
Are you cringing?
My anus is like inside my stomach right now. Okay, I've cringed so much.
Why do we have to talk about race so much? Because I have to lecture you. Is that not what's happening here?
That's
Look,
what happened.
This video is only 5 minutes long.
It feels like an eternity, doesn't it?
We're halfway through it.
Yeah.
The video is called Why Colorblindness Will Not End Racism.
We're finally getting into the topic, okay?
You think so?
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
Isn't the problem. Racism is. And even if it was the problem, problems—
Wait.
Dog. Here's what I know. Talking about racism just creates more racism. No. First off, race isn't the problem. Racism is. And even if it was the problem, problems don't get worse when you talk about them, and they don't magically go away when you ignore them. Not true. I had 5 cavities, I ignored them, and all 5 of those teeth fell out. Poof. Problem solved. Colorblind.
So she's doing the classic thing that James Lindsay points out. She's confusing colorblindness with racism blindness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You can't spend the whole first part of your video talking about how race is a social construct constructed to essentially use power over people. And then when someone says, oh, okay, so why don't we abolish and destroy those categories?
Or just
And then you say,
change it
no.
to all human beings are one race. The
Right.
human race. Look,
Right.
we created a new category.
Right. And then when someone says, oh, well, if I buy into your premise, Francesca, okay, why don't we just get rid of that category? And then she says, no, by getting rid of that category, you're being racist.
You're ignoring racism.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what? The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Leftist gobbledygook.
Blindness, while nice in theory, has no effect on structural and institutional racism.
Ah!
Racism is a system, and that system benefits certain people at the expense of others.
Wait a minute. If there was no concept, if there was literally no concept of race, we abolished the concept of race, how the fuck could structural racism even exist?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good step in the right direction, right?
Structural racism can only exist if there's a category of race in the first place.
Well, no, because look, I've detected the first anti-white racism in this video.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Structural racism exists because white people.
Well, so the argument, and I don't know if she'll make this argument because these videos are so fucking paper thin of any like useful information. The argument that I see in CRT, because she's basically just giving the CRT arguments here, is that the reason colorblindness doesn't work is because it's all a lie, and people, especially white people, will never actually truly be colorblind.
Yeah, no.
They'll say they are, but they won't actually be it. They'll still judge people on the basis of their race.
Here it comes. Ready?
Okay.
Colorblindness, while nice in theory, has no effect on structural and institutional racism. Racism is a system, and that system benefits certain people at the expense of others. Ignoring it just lets those problems persist. Don't believe
Certain people at the expense of other people.
Hmm.
What could those look? She's already set up a video about racial categories. Is it rich people and poor people? It benefits certain people at the expense of other people. Who are the people in those categories, in those social construct categories?
I think it's people with blue eyes versus people with green eyes.
I don't think so, Sitch.
You don't think so? Oh, okay.
Look, is she going to say it or what?
I
Or
don't
are
know.
we
We'll
supposed
see.
to just read between the lines here?
I guess.
me? Let's take a look at some examples where colorblindness doesn't work. Number 1, preschool punishment. Let's face a fact, preschool-aged children of every race are monsters. But according to the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights report released in 2014, black children make up 18% of preschoolers, but almost half of all suspensions. Half. And I don't think anybody believes all these preschool teachers are racist out to get little black children, but the data shows that black and Latino children often face steeper punishments than their white classmates for the same behavior. That's a problem.
So I've looked into a lot of these studies.
I know you have, totally.
These studies are all bullshit.
Of course they are.
Because first of all, it's not like they had the same teacher merit out punishments to white kids and black kids and then say, oh, the same, right? They're like, oh, they're first of all, they're number one, when they say like the same punishments, that they did the same problem, they're trying to base this strictly on different teachers in different situations giving reports about behavior, okay? And just if like a teacher says, oh, this kid was talking in class in one instance and this kid talking in class in another instance, they just say, oh, well, they're both talking in class. It's got to be the same thing. Why was the punishment different, right? Ignoring all the further context.
One kid told the teacher to fuck off.
Right. One teacher told to get the fuck off. One teacher maybe has been talking in class, repeat. Like, there's another big thing. They didn't account for repeat offenses at all in any of these studies.
Yeah.
That was number one. And then number two, another thing, and I've talked about this on stream in the past, all these studies would leave out the fact that a lot of schools that had higher black populations generally tend to be poor schools. Poor schools often don't have the money for indoor suspension or other punishment or detention or other punishment things, so they have to heavily rely on outdoor suspension as their only means of punishment. And what we've seen in schools that get rid of outdoor suspension, because you have to get rid of it because it's racist, all that happens is that schools with higher black populations just become fucking destroyed with behavioral problems because they have
no
literally
punishment.
nothing they can do
Right.
to punish kids after that.
Hilarious.
It's just it's sad. It's like fucking horrific. And I don't know, the idiots, these well-meaning idiots who think they're fighting racism have no fucking clue what they're talking about when they go over this shit.
Well, they literally make it worse because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they create all these behavioral problems in the black schools, and they wonder why blacks are
Doing worse in school.
yeah, because
You know
they're in
why?
a terrible
Because of
environment.
systemic racism, Adam.
Yeah, but they created the policy. They literally created the policy.
I know.
The policy was created to fight systemic racism.
But see, that's why the concept of systemic racism is such a dog shit concept, because this is how it's applied. There's some disparity in suspensions. And so what do the politicians do? They say, oh, we'll just get rid of suspensions. That'll fix the problem. Guess what? It makes it worse.
Yep.
Makes it 1,000 times worse.
Problem. And simply believing we shouldn't see race or we shouldn't talk about race does nothing to solve this problem. Number 2, the name study.
And even if we were to grant charity to say that was even true, the first thing was even true, all that would mean was that the person wasn't really colorblind. That's all it would mean.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we're supposed to figure out how colorblindness won't work.
Right. Because I'm assuming she's going to say, well, the Asian teacher, I don't know why she chose the Asian teacher. The Asian teacher
racist.
has some kind of implicit bias, and that has something to do with systemic racism, which, by the way, systemic racism has nothing to do with implicit bias anyway, but okay. Different concepts.
A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research confirmed that people with ethnic sounding names, that's a whole nother episode, are less likely to get interviewed when they apply for jobs.
We've gone over this
like
study
a
million times. Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, applicants with white-sounding names actually get 33% more callbacks for interviews. It's the equivalent of having 8 years of additional experience. Shout out to all the white Taquans struggling to get job interviews. And it's not just black.
Remember the study recently where people were marking black on their college applications because they were more likely to get in? Do you remember that? Ibram X. Kendi complained about it in some tweet or everything.
I do remember
and everyone called him out. They were like, well, listen, this completely goes against your theory.
Right.
Black and white. They've done similar studies around the world, and in Canada, people with white-sounding names were 35% more likely to get callbacks than people with Indian or Chinese-sounding names. So instead of just assuming people shouldn't care about color or names, companies, governments, and schools should take the bias out of hiring and experience.
Again, this is a problem with people not being colorblind. Correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to even take it on its face value, because obviously, especially with the whole, I mean, first of all, they've done studies with like redneck names. People don't want to hire people.
Yeah,
with
totally.
Names. People don't want to hire people with regional specific names. They want someone that has a blank default name.
Right.
Because there's a signal, and this is part of the problem that's not talked about. When someone hires you, and if they look at your name and you have like a weird name, that's signaling to the person some information about you, which they could be completely wrong, right? But why would you want to saddle your child with some kind of signal that says, "Oh, my child is special in some way," right? I'm not going to be a conformist, right? I'm not going to give my child a normal name. I'm going to give them a unique name because I'm not a conformist, right?
Right. Yeah. A contrarian.
Right.
Hire the contrarian.
Experiment with nameless resumes to, solve the problem. Number 3, renting an apartment. When the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Urban Institute did a study about real estate, they found that Black, Latino, and Asian renters were shown up to 12% fewer units than white renters. And when the Fair Housing Justice Center used actors to apply for apartments, they found that Black and Latino renters were often told there were no apartments available, while white applicants were shown apartments in the same building. So this building has a pool, a laundry room, and a racist landlady. Colorblindness won't fix housing discrimination.
So first of all, wait a minute. So everything that she's talking about